The grand selection hall of the Voltorian royal palace was a marvel of architecture and excess. Crystalline pillars rose 3 stories high, refracting light into dancing rainbows across walls adorned with living bioluminescent vines. The ceiling was a transparent dome that opened onto the star-filled sky of Voltoria Prime, and the floor was polished obsidian that reflected everything like a dark mirror. I hated every inch of it. My name is Kai Reeves, and 3 months ago I was a nobody, a human mechanic working in the lower districts of the capital, fixing broken hover cycles and trying to keep my head down. Then I made the mistake of repairing Queen Valeria's private transport when it broke down in my neighborhood. She'd been traveling incognito, and I hadn't recognized her. I'd just seen someone stranded and offered help. Apparently, that small act of kindness had impressed her enough to extend an invitation to the palace. Not as a guest. That would have been too simple. No, I'd been invited as a potential suitor for Princess Lyra during the traditional selection ceremony. I'd tried to refuse. I'd explained that I was completely unsuitable, that I had no noble blood, no wealth, no education beyond what I'd taught myself. The Queen had smiled and said that was precisely why I was invited. Now I stood in a line with 47 other candidates, nobles from across the Voltorian Empire, warriors who'd proven themselves in battle, scholars with multiple doctoral degrees, and artists whose work hung in galleries across 3-star systems. And me, in borrowed formal where that didn't quite fit, trying not to trip over the ceremonial sash they'd insisted I wear. Princess Lyra sat on a raised dais beside her mother, looking absolutely miserable. Her navy blue skin seemed darker than usual, and her golden eyes were distant, unfocused. She wore a gown of shimmering silver that probably cost more than I'd earn in a lifetime, and her platinum blonde hair was arranged in an elaborate style that must have taken hours. She looked like a prisoner dressed for execution. The ceremony was simple in concept, brutal in execution. Each candidate would approach the princess, present themselves and their qualifications, and she would indicate interest or dismissal. Those she showed interest in would proceed to the next round of consideration. Those she dismissed would leave immediately. So far, she dismissed everyone. I watched as Lord Thelvan, a decorated military commander with 4 Valor medals and the physique of someone who could bench press a small spacecraft, approached with confidence bordering on arrogance. He listed his achievements in a booming voice that echoed through the hall, his chest literally glowing with pride, a Voltorian physiological response to strong emotion. Lyra barely looked at him. "Thank you for your interest, Lord Thelvan. You may go." The hall rippled with shocked whispers. Thelvan was considered the favorite. His dismissal sent a clear message. The princess was not impressed by traditional qualifications. 3 scholars went next, then 2 artists, then a prince from a neighboring system who'd traveled 6 weeks to be here. All dismissed with the same polite, empty phrase. The Queen's expression grew more concerned with each rejection. This wasn't how the ceremony was supposed to go. By tradition, Lyra should have selected at least 10 candidates by now for further consideration. I was number 43 in line. As the candidates ahead of me approached and were systematically rejected, I started calculating how quickly I could leave once this disaster was over. Maybe I could get my old job back. Maybe I could move to a different district where nobody knew I'd humiliated myself at the royal palace. Kai Reeves, human mechanic from the lower districts. The announcement of my name jerked me from my thoughts. Somehow, it was my turn. I walked forward on legs that felt like they'd forgotten how to work properly, acutely aware that every eye in the hall was on me. The human, the commoner, the one who absolutely did not belong. I stopped at the appropriate distance from the dais and bowed, probably not correctly, definitely not gracefully. When I straightened, I finally looked directly at Princess Lyra, and found her looking back at me, really looking for the first time all evening. Her golden eyes focused, sharpened, and something that might have been recognition flickered across her face. "You're the mechanic," she said softly, "the one who helped my mother." "Yes, Your Highness." My voice came out steadier than I expected. Though I didn't know it was the Queen at the time, I just saw someone who needed help. A murmur ran through the assembled crowd. Apparently, this was more conversation than Lyra had offered anyone else. "What qualifies you to stand before me today?" she asked, and there was something in her tone, not mockery, but genuine curiosity. I could have lied, could have inflated my modest skills into something impressive. But standing there watching this woman who clearly hated every moment of this ceremony, I found I didn't have the energy for pretense. "Honestly, nothing, Your Highness. I have no titles, no military achievements, no advanced degrees. I'm good with my hands. I can fix almost anything mechanical. I know the lower districts like the back of my hand. I can hold a conversation about classic human literature because I spent most of my childhood in libraries since we couldn't afford entertainment systems." I shrugged, feeling the borrowed sash slip slightly. "I'm here because your mother invited me, and it seemed rude to refuse a queen, but I think we both know I don't belong in this room." The hall had gone completely silent. I'd just committed social suicide, and everyone knew it. But Lyra was sitting forward now, her eyes locked on mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. "You think you don't belong here," she repeated slowly. "Tell me, Kai Reeves, do you think any of them belong here?" She gestured at the remaining candidates in line. I blinked, surprised by the question. I don't know, Your Highness. They're certainly more qualified than I am." "Qualified," she said, and there was something bitter in her voice. "Yes, they're very qualified. Qualified to enhance our military standing or our cultural prestige or our political alliances. They're qualified to be assets to the crown." She stood, and the movement sent a ripple of shock through the assembly. The princess wasn't supposed to stand during the selection. But are they qualified to be partners, to be companions, to be someone I could actually talk to? Queen Valeria leaned forward. "Lyra, no, mother." Lyra's voice was firm but not disrespectful. "You gave me the right to choose. You invited this human because you said his character impressed you, because he helped you without knowing who you were or what he might gain. You said that kind of genuine kindness was rare." She turned back to me. "So I have a question for Kai Reeves, who thinks he doesn't belong here." I swallowed hard. "Your Highness, if there were no ceremony, no palace, no titles or expectations, if you met me in your district, just another person who needed help, would you stop to talk to me?" The question caught me completely off guard. I looked at her, really looked past the gown and the crown and the formal bearing, and saw someone young, isolated, desperate for something real in a world of carefully orchestrated interactions. "Yes," I said simply. "I think I would. You look like you could use a friend." Her breath caught. Behind her, the Queen's eyes widened. "A friend," Lyra repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. Then, louder, when was the last time someone offered me friendship instead of an alliance? She stepped down from the dais, protocol shattering. The guards tensed, but the queen raised a hand to stop them. Lyra walked toward me, closing the distance until we stood only a few feet apart. "You're honest," she said. "Painfully, awkwardly honest. You didn't try to impress me with accomplishments or promises. You didn't see a princess to be won. You saw a person trapped in a ceremony she hated." I. "Yes, Your Highness." "Lyra," she corrected. "When we're talking like this, just Lyra. That doesn't seem appropriate. Nothing about this situation is appropriate." A small smile tugged at her lips, the first genuine expression I'd seen from her all night. A human mechanic telling a princess he doesn't belong at her selection ceremony. A princess abandoning protocol to have an actual conversation. We're already so far beyond appropriate that we might as well be honest with each other. I couldn't help it, I laughed. It was a short, surprised sound that I tried to stifle, but it was too late. And impossibly, Lyra laughed too, a bright sound that seemed to startle even her. "Your Highness," Commander Thello stepped forward, his voice tight with concern, "this is highly irregular." "Yes, it is," Lyra agreed, not looking away from me. "This entire ceremony is irregular." The traditional selection was designed for arranged marriages between noble houses, not for finding someone I might actually want to spend my life with. She glanced back at her mother. "Isn't that why you changed it, Mother? Why you opened it to candidates based on character rather than just bloodline?" The queen stood slowly, her expression unreadable. The entire hall held its breath. "It is," Valeria said carefully. "I wanted you to have choices I never had, my star. I wanted you to find someone who saw you, not just the crown. Then let me choose." Lyra turned back to me, and I saw determination in her eyes alongside something that looked like hope. "Kai Reeves, you said you don't belong here, but what if I said I don't belong here either? What if I said that every person who approached me tonight saw a princess, a prize, a stepping stone to power, and you're the only one who saw someone who might need a friend?" My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. "Lyra, I'm not asking you to marry me," she said quickly. "I'm not asking you to love me or promise me forever. I'm asking if you'd be willing to get to know me, really know me, not the princess in the palace, but the person underneath all this." She gestured at her elaborate gown, her tone wry. "And let me get to know you. No ceremony, no pressure, just two people learning if they might actually like each other." The hall was so quiet I could hear the bioluminescent vines rustling against the walls. I thought about my small apartment in the lower districts, my simple life, the careful boundaries I'd built to keep the world at arm's length. Then I thought about Lyra's eyes when I'd made her laugh, the desperate hope in her voice when she talked about being seen as a person rather than a title. "I'm terrible at formal occasions," I warned her. "I'll probably embarrass you constantly." "I hate formal occasions," she countered. "You'd be doing me a favor. I don't know anything about being in a relationship with royalty. I don't know anything about being in a real relationship at all." Her voice softened. "We'd be figuring it out together." I looked past her at the queen, who was watching us with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Your Majesty, is this allowed? Can she just choose me like this?" Valeria's lips curved into a small smile. "The ceremony grants the princess the right to select candidates for consideration. There's no rule about how that selection must be made." Her smile widened. "Though I admit I've never seen it done quite like this." "Mother," Lyra turned, uncertainty flickering across her face. I invited Kai Reeves because I saw in him the qualities I hoped you would value, the Queen said. Honesty, kindness, the ability to see people rather than positions, if you see those same qualities. She inclined her head. Then make your choice, my star. Lyra turned back to me, and I saw her take a deep breath, gathering courage. When she spoke, her voice carried through the silent hall. Kai Reeves, human mechanic from the lower districts, who helped a stranger without knowing she was a queen, who told me the truth when lies would have served you better, who offered me friendship when everyone else offered ambition. She extended her hand, the traditional Voltorian gesture of selection. I choose you. The hall erupted. Not with applause, but with gasps, shocked whispers, and from somewhere in the back, an actual shout of disbelief. The remaining candidates looked stunned. The nobles in attendance seemed split between scandalized and fascinated. Commander Thellos appeared to be having a minor crisis, and I stood there staring at Lyra's extended hand, aware that taking it would change my life completely and irrevocably. "You're sure?" I asked quietly, just for her. "Because once I take your hand, there's no going back. You'll have chosen a nobody in front of everyone who matters in your world." "I'm choosing someone who sees me," she replied just as quietly. "That makes you somebody to me." I reached out and took her hand. The moment our fingers touched, the hall fell silent again. This was it, the official selection, witnessed by nobles, recorded by historians, binding by tradition and law. Lyra's skin was cool against mine, smooth and faintly luminescent. She squeezed my fingers gently, and I squeezed back. "Well," Queen Valeria said into the silence, her voice carrying a note of amused satisfaction, "I believe that concludes tonight's ceremony. Princess Lyra has made her selection. Let it be recorded that Kai Reeves, son of Earth, mechanic of the lower districts, has been chosen for consideration as consort to the crown princess of Voltoria." The formal words made it real. The room erupted again, this time with a mixture of congratulations, protests, and frantic whispered conversations. I caught Lord Thelvan's expression, somewhere between outraged and grudgingly impressed. Lyra leaned closer, her voice for my ears only. "You're going to regret this, you know. The next few weeks are going to be exhausting." "Probably," I agreed. "But I've regretted playing it safe my whole life. Maybe it's time to regret taking a chance instead." Her smile was radiant. "Come on, let's get out of here before someone tries to object formally." She tugged me toward a side exit, still holding my hand. Queen Valeria made no move to stop us, though I caught her exchanging a knowing look with one of her advisors. As we left the grand selection hall behind, leaving the shocked nobility and broken protocol in our wake, I heard Lyra laugh, a free, genuine sound that echoed in the corridor. "I can't believe I just did that," she said, her bioluminescent skin pulsing with excitement and nervous energy. "I can't believe you chose me," I replied. "Out of everyone in that room, warriors, scholars, princes, you chose the mechanic." She stopped walking and turned to face me fully, her golden eyes serious despite her smile. "I chose the person who told me the truth. I chose the person who saw past the crown. I chose the person who made me remember what it feels like to laugh." She squeezed my hand. "I chose someone who might actually choose me back, not for what I represent, but for who I am." Standing in that corridor, still wearing my ill-fitting borrowed formal wear, holding hands with a princess who just shocked her entire court, I realized something. Maybe I did belong here after all. Not because of qualifications or achievements, but because sometimes belonging isn't about fitting into a world. It's about finding the one person who makes you feel like you don't have to fit, you can just be. So, I said, what happens now? Lyra grinned, mischievous and free. Now. Now we go find some real food because I'm starving and that ceremony food is all decoration and no substance. Then you're going to tell me everything about your life in the lower districts, and I'm going to tell you what it's really like growing up in a palace. And then, she paused, suddenly shy. Then we'll see if you still think I'm worth taking a chance on. I think you're already proving yourself worth it, I said honestly. Her blush was beautiful, a deep purple that spread across her navy blue skin. Come on before I lose my nerve and remember that I'm supposed to be dignified and proper. As we walked through the palace together, hand in hand, I heard the distant sounds of the grand selection hall dissolving into chaos. Tomorrow there would be consequences, scandal, political complications I couldn't begin to imagine. But tonight, a princess had chosen a mechanic in front of her entire world. And somehow, impossibly, that felt like the beginning of something real.